Oh.
Yeah. Now it's on. Make sure it turns green, then you're talking and we can hear you when you're on the record, and then
Ready? Good afternoon, everyone. The afternoon meeting of the Sacramento Housing Authority will come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish a quorum?
thank you. Member Ashby, Member Warren, Member Harris, Member Hanson, Member Jennings, Member Guerra, Member Chenier, and Mayor Steinberg.
Here. Thank you very much, everyone. Welcome to all of you. Before we begin with our special and important presentation, I just want to explain to the members of the public who may wonder why I announced this meeting as a meeting of the Sacramento Housing Authority. A lot of members of the public may not understand that the City Council actually sits concurrently oftentimes as a City Council but also a separate housing authority. Of course, the housing authority is essentially an agency that is composed of both the city and the county meeting separately. Confusing enough, I hope. And so what we have decided in 2020 that the issues of housing and homelessness obviously are of such paramount importance that we wanted to break out the housing authority items and actually meet as a separate housing authority, as the same members of the city council. And so we're joined by the SHRA, the Housing Authority Executive Director, Lachelle Dozier, and her team, who she will introduce in a moment. But I wanted to just put that into some context. We do have one very important item before we get into the agenda. And this is actually item 13 on the City Council agenda set for 5 o'clock this afternoon. And we will vote on that, and I predict a unanimous and enthusiastic vote of approval. But we are honored today to have Dennis and Kelly, the O'Sullivans here, Tara's parents. And this afternoon, we intend to name the Woodlake Park baseball field as Officer Tara O'Sullivan Memorial Field. And this will be a great honor for us as the city. And Chief Hahn, thank you. And the men and women who are here in uniform today to witness, I think, a very important action from our city. You, more than anyone, have suffered a profound loss. And I know it's small comfort, but the truth is that the entire Sacramento community, starting with the men and women in uniform, but the entire city, also suffered a tremendous loss with the death of Tara last summer. It was a chapter of my tenure that I will never, ever forget in terms of the outpouring of grief, of love, and of respect for the men and women who put their lives on the line every day for our city. And we all have been incredibly impressed by your strength and how, in the midst of what must be indescribable mourning, how you have sort of looked out for others and how you have lifted us all up and how you have committed and dedicated yourselves to Tara's memory on behalf of everyone else who puts on the uniform. And so we're just so grateful to you. And I want to thank Councilmember Warren for bringing this forward here today. I hope this isn't the last such recognition that we will make around your daughter's service and memory. And we just want you to know that no matter how much time passes and however busy our lives are, that she will always be in our heart, and so will you. Let me turn it over to Councilmember Warren. I'm sorry, here you go.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier today, a group of us met, the city manager, assistant city manager, members of our park leadership team, members of the SAC PD, Chief Hahn, with Mr. and Mrs. O'Sullivan. And what we are doing today is something I think that will be recognized by most, if not all, of Sacramento as something that is very fitting for a person, for a police officer who was a champion in our community and who, from the people in District 2, some of the people that I'm most close to, people who typically would not come to City Hall, a lot of guys that I grew up with that had challenges growing up and did not make it out, have had to fight the system. When Officer O'Sullivan was unfortunately taken away from us, came to me, some in tears. And one of the things that had been very important to me, and is, I think, no surprise, has been a big issue in the city, in the region, is to try to create better police relations with segments of our communities that sometimes is the hardest for them to police. And we have had challenges in the city. Some of these very guys are some of the guys that some of the police officers had to deal with. And when they came to me and told me about how Officer O'Sullivan, her energy, her enthusiasm, her ability to listen, her ability to help connect people in our community, her can-do attitude, a goodwill ambassador for the police department back into our neighborhoods. She was precisely the type of police officer that I wanted policing District 2. And when some of those guys came to me in tears about what had happened, they came to the memorial. I introduced a couple to the family at the memorial. But it really struck me of how broadly she impacted our community. And I know that law enforcement community felt a tremendous loss. There were a lot of tears. You know, we lost such a young, vibrant, special person. And also somebody who really served to do the very things that we talked about doing some years ago, which to try to create an environment that was a safer environment for the police department, safer environment for our community, to really help elevate the city of Sacramento and police and community relations. And so I heard stories from a number of people when it happened, and unfortunately it happened also in District 2. And so originally we had selected a park that we thought might be appropriate. Councilman Harris and I had talked about it, and Councilman Harris said, I want to work with you, Alan, on doing something very special for Officer O'Sullivan. And then members of the park department came to me and said, what about this? What about Woodlake Park, which is really, I think, the most appropriate place for us to do what we're doing. It's in a fantastic community, probably the nicest community in District 2. It's next to the law enforcement and the police memorial, where we have annual functions there. And it's a place that we want to be used and as a sign and a symbol of good energy. And so with that, the city manager, Mr. Chan, said, Alan, I'd like to schedule a meeting with the family so we could talk to them about this idea to see if it's something that would be okay with them. And I'm very pleased that this morning, after our discussion, and then they went out and toured the park, and they also thought that it was fitting. And so we're going to do everything we can to keep the memory of Officer O'Sullivan alive. Her spirit will live forever, but we want her name to be heard for generations to come. And we want people, when they come to this park, to understand really the history of the young lady that this park is named after. And it's going to be, I think, incumbent upon all of us to tell the story of a young lady who had tremendous positive energy, was a tremendous athlete, was a doer, a go-getter. And I think that will help soften the blow. Can never replace the loss that the family, both her blood family as well as her law enforcement family and the family of Sacramento, can never replace her, but maybe just help in some way soften the blow. And so with that, I am happy to sponsor and champion this. I'm happy that my colleague, Councilman Harris, Council Mayor Pro Tem Ashby, have encouraged and been very supportive. And I think, as the mayor said earlier, this will be a unanimous vote from this body. And we don't always get there. You know, sometimes this council has, you know, we have a variety of positions that might differ from one another, but for the most part, we are one. This body really has worked to do some incredible things. I think this is one of them, and I'm very proud to be the sponsor. So thank you for allowing me to do that, Mr. and Mrs. O'Sullivan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Warren. Chief Hahn or the O'Sullivans or Captain Brown, anyone want to come to the dais and make some comments? No obligation here in any way, but if you would like to, in anticipation of the 5 o'clock vote, we would welcome you, especially Mom and Dad here. But no, please, no pressure. I said Chief, yeah. Chief, whatever you want. It's okay, we'd even give you more than 2 minutes, so it's good, you know.
Yeah, first off, I want to say, thank you from the O'Sullivan's family. Mr. Warren, thank you very much for, softening the blow. It does mean a lot, and we really appreciate that. I had the honor of meeting Mr. Warren at the memorial and then also today, and, doing some great things. And we want to say thank you for all of you and the support that we've gotten from, Sacramento and then, from the police department has been outstanding. One thing that I brought up at the end of the meeting is there was a lot of great police work done. And I hope something is being done to recognize that. There was procedures followed. There was children playing in the street, houses next to it that were evacuated. Yes, the loss of Tara is devastating to us, but by the police doing their jobs and doing it right, there was only one casualty when there could have been many, many more. And we hope that that will be recognized. So just want to say, and thank you once again.
Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. You're absolutely right that, and it has been written about and spoken about, but the way the police department heroically handled that awful situation should be written in the books because that was the most dangerous situation, obviously, but to have no one else injured was remarkable, and thank you for reminding us of that. Councilmember Ashby.
Thank you, Mayor. So obviously we vote on this later tonight. I, of course, will be supporting it, as I believe all of my colleagues will certainly support this as well. But I want to thank Councilmember Warren because almost immediately following the tragedy, he said to me, I need to do something about this, right? He was devastated that it happened in District 2. And I mean, absolutely devastated, and it's hard. We represent these districts, but we don't control everything that happens in them. And lo that we could, we try, right? And it was really on his heart immediately that he was gonna find a way to memorialize her. And he talked to me a lot about people in the community who felt really close to her in just that short time, but District 2 already had taken notice of her. And obviously her captain then, Pam, had also taken big notice of her. And so I think this is so appropriate, and I'm really proud of Councilmember Warren for seeing it through. Sometimes things happen not as fast as we want them to around here, but this is pretty quick for the changing of a name on a park and getting it in the exact right spot and in exactly the right way that he wanted it to happen. And I'm just really proud of him, and I'm proud of the law enforcement family. And Kelly, I've never met anyone in my life like you. Never. I mean, you show up for all of them. It was like you immediately took to taking care of every officer that we have. You are just absolutely incredible. And I love my friendship with you, and I love the way you love on this department. And I think your daughter's memory is reflected so much in you and this and all of this. Thank you for letting us be a part of it and a part of your family still. Thank you for letting Sacramento stay with the O'Sullivan family. This is a tremendous honor tonight. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Sorry. Well, thank you. Again, procedurally, we have to vote at 5 o'clock today. So, and I'm sorry. If you would like, whatever would you like? We'd all come down and greet you, and we'll take a picture, and the chief and any of the men and women, whatever you like. Let's all do that. Okay. Thank you. Oh, we should, okay. Okay. Hey, Chief.
Just one thing? That's it? One item.
I'm easy.
Keep going, everybody get in there. Carl, get that crew going farther over to the ground. Just go all the way across. Just keep going across.
I'll send it to you.
Okay. Hey, George. Keep sliding over. Got like 5 more. Try to tell him, huh?
Oh, you are? Yeah, I'm just trying to get Howard shot real. He wants something real close.
That's what happens, George.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Take care. Hey, how are you? Good to see ya.
What's the word, baby? How you doing, man? You doing good? You're getting tall. You're getting almost tall as me. And
Where are
rolling.
the O'Sullivans here?
You know? How long you gonna be with the police department today? Are they taking you back right after?
Yeah,
Till 5? You gonna be there until 5? You make sure they give you a paycheck then, okay? Till 5. Good to see you. Tell your parents I said hi.
I am going to come out and visit.
Yes, you do need to. Yes.
How's your boy doing? He's good. My boy was
Just briefly.
Miller's big brother.
He's a two academy brothers of mine. So there's a question whether there's one upstairs. That's it right there.
We've known him for a long time. We saw him
Look at you. You don't age. I think you look that. Nice seeing you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll talk about it. Just if you need me for something, otherwise, I'll tell I'll say, look, Raj, I told him.
Hey, thank you.
I don't.
biggest snack stand around, so we talked about, and I was one of the caterers and thing helpers. So
Downtown Brown. Can we still call you downtown?
Of course you can.
Okay, good.
Of course you can.
You're welcome back anytime.
I'm in line.
Yeah, of course.
I'm in line.
I've put in my request.
In fact, I'm going to use
Arm's
the
not
men's
quite
room
ready,
real
but if
quick.
this deputy chief thing happens,
I always think I know what's
we got a champion.
in store for me, but I don't.
anyway, you just tell me.
We're gonna get back on our field and play this one? We handle you guys all right. You remember that.
Oh, yeah, we didn't, so do we do that as a housing authority?
If you'd like to.
Yeah, we'll do it.
We'll do it twice next time.
All right, we'd like to reconvene our meeting here. The mayor has taken a brief recess, and so our next item will be the consent calendar.
Move consent?
Just,
Any comments?
yes, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Uh-oh, Mindy, it just went blank. There we go. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I'll second, or, yeah.
Councilmember Hanson.
I just wanted to thank the staff for the helpful information in here, particularly number 4, the schedule of projects, I think really is, it's exciting. We've been waiting for a long time to see projects go forward, and some of them on here have been in the works for years as we scramble to get money. And Christine, I know that you labor very hard on this. So seeing the schedule for this year is actually quite hopeful, trying to meet some of our affordable housing goals. So I just wanted to share that and just thank the staff. Our city staff as well are going to be working with you on housing bond stuff, and so we look forward to maybe getting even more robust list towards the end of the year as that bond goes forward. So I know resources are the key constraint. Vision is not. So thank you, Christine. Thank you, Lachelle.
Okay, just catching up here. The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. Very good. Okay, any public testimony? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? That passes. Thank you. Michelle, I think it might be, everybody knows everybody, but since this is sort of a new configuration of the dais here, take the opportunity maybe to introduce who else is on the dais and some of your senior staff. That would be great.
Okay.
I'm sorry, let me help you. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, so my name is Lachelle Dozier, as you all know. I am the Executive Director for SHRA. We're really excited that we now have an opportunity to really focus in specifically and take the time to go over housing-related items. In the past, I know sometimes it gets a little bit busy trying to juggle everything, but I think it really continues to show the commitment of the city to really make sure that housing is a priority to separate these things out. So to that end, my staff is also here. I have our legal counsel, Brad Nakano, who is sitting here at the end of the dais. We're really excited to bring him on board. He is new to the agency, comes to us from PERS, so he knows all about.
Did you bring money?
Yeah. So he really understands a lot about how things work with pensions, but he's excellent and has really jumped right in, and we're really excited to have him on our team. In addition, we also have some of our commission members here. We have the chair of the board, Gail Morgan, who's here. We also have Mr. Jabu, who's another one of our resident commissioners, and I think those are all of our commissioners. And then we also have our senior staff here, and they'll be here making some of the presentations. Tyrone Roderick Williams will be talking about CDBG. We have Christine Weichert, who will also be talking about some of the programs that are coming forward. Ann Nichols, I think, will also be doing some presentations. So whenever Christine is standing there, the person who's really doing the work is Ann Nichols. She works very, very hard and does an excellent job. We also have Latan Jones, who is our Director of Public Housing. So he's the guy who works on all of our RAD programs. So really great to have the whole team here and very excited moving forward.
Very good. Thank you so much. Let us begin with item 5, which is the public hearing on the SRO issue. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Ann Nichols. I am very excited to be presenting this long-awaited project to you today. The report before you requests approval of $9.1 million in loans and a conversion certificate for the Capitol Park Hotel Permanent Supportive and Workforce Housing Project. Last spring, the city loaned $13.3 million to SHRA, and SHRA in turn entered into a loan agreement with Mercy Housing for the acquisition of Capitol Park and relocation of 80 residents. It is anticipated the funds will be returned to the city later this year. In June, the project was awarded over $9.6 million in state No Place Like Home program funds. In addition, SHRA awarded the project 134 project-based vouchers to house homeless households. Mercy Housing will rehabilitate the current 180-room SRO into 134 affordable units with kitchens and bathrooms. Since Capitol Park is subject to the city's SRO ordinance, Mercy has requested a conversion certificate, which will allow for this reconfiguration. Financing from the agency includes a $1.5 million pre-development loan and a $7.6 million construction and permanent loan. Other financing includes federal, state, and historic tax credits, No Place Like Home loans, and an AHP loan. It should be noted that for each dollar the agency provides to this project, we are leveraging over $6 from other sources. Given Mercy Housing's experience at other homeless permanent supportive housing developments, such as 7th and H and Boulevard Court, Mercy Housing has proved they are qualified to be the developer, manager, and resident service provider for this Capitol Park project. We anticipate the project will be receiving a tax credit award this summer, and the homeless shelter currently being operated at this site closing in October. Construction should begin in November 2020. Stephen Dawes from Mercy Housing is here, and staff is available to address any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We do have one item of public testimony, and then we'll go to the members.
I have one speaker on this item, Mr. Mac Elworthy.
Good afternoon, panel. You know, I've been looking at this now for 40-some years, housing, 40-some years. And we still haven't had enough people from the general public to understand this. If I had never created my own business, I wouldn't even understand it. I took business law, a B at American River under Dr. Waite, accounting. Door to door, going out of town, setting up my own business. But we find out that down the line, you're gonna get a real pushback here for people to understand what is public housing. You go law enforcement, get ready. To what that young girl got killed, you're gonna get killed. Not knowing you don't have to have a warrant to come into a public house. Tell the people the truth. Loans, how many people here get $2 a month from investment that has resided in this town? Tell them the truth. That could have been done, but it wasn't done. I don't oppose you, and I don't cherish you. Be aware. What I predicted here have come to be. And we're gonna have 4 more. We're gonna have some money taken from the state. How are you gonna cover it up for that money? The little jobs, people, they're not going to fit. You're gonna have to get some jobs from somewhere else, pay more. We're still doing with nonprofit money. We're using nonprofit money 3 times in this city. We don't have new money coming to this town. We don't have business coming here that really can hire people. I just looked at a project that will live 3 years, will live 5 years. And redevelopment money helped build that project. Because of what I see in it, people don't buy that. They don't have that sense of purchasing here to the furniture that's in those little places on Auto Street. There are some things that I'm going to show you later.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete.
I'll show you later
Thank
with
you
the
for your comments.
investigation
Your
I'm
time
doing
is complete.
down the line.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from the members. Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you. I really just want to applaud SHRA and their staff. The building, as we came into possession of it, we realized had much more deficient systems than had been anticipated, and they've just done yeoman's work along with VOA and the other partners to keep it running as a shelter. And I still remember the call to Doug Shoemaker from Mercy. Obviously, Stephen, you and I talked, but it was a little bit of a leap of faith for Mercy too to come through this path, which was a non-traditional path for a building acquisition and then to use it for the interim use of a shelter. But it really has been a transformational project. I know we're continuing to work with the remaining residents there. I think there are about 30 left, and really it's probably going to be a model that's going to be replicated across the state now as we try to find shelter beds, as we try to house people and use the resources we have more efficiently. So I just want to say thank you. I want to open and close the public hearing and approve the item, and this is a building that is desperately in need of renovation for the long-term benefit, not just of historic preservation, of permanent supportive housing for the formerly homeless, but for the betterment of the whole community. And so thank you for the hard work on it.
So, Councilman Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that as well. So, yeah, I also want to thank SHRA. This is a novel project. It was a leap of faith, and there's many players involved. I wanted to call out Stephen Dawes and Rich Zarallo from Mercy. You know, without contacts like you, without partners like you, this just simply wouldn't be possible. And I know that I personally appreciate all the work that Mercy does to assist us with, you know, the problems of homelessness, but also affordable housing in the city. You do a great job. You've done a great job with 7th and H, and you've done a great job. As you know, there's a possibility to replicate this program. Councilmember Hanson said across the state, but I'm just thinking across the city right now, and I'm hoping that in my district we can replicate this project and that we can move forward so that the residents currently in Capitol Park who don't get housed will have another opportunity. So thank you all very much for creating this.
Compliments abound, rightfully so, on a couple levels. One, thank you to Mercy again for stepping in and showing us the model in terms of how it can be done and should be done. And the SHRA for going the non-traditional route, if you will, and diving into the breach here around ensuring that we will have at least a year plus of triage shelter before we convert to permanent housing. It does raise a challenge for us, though, that I just want to make sure that that we speak about and begin focusing on, and that is it's going to be a 2-year construction period beginning next October, November, which means we have a lot of people who are living in the Capitol Park Hotel now who were formerly unsheltered and homeless. Now, we do have WX and Meadowview and tiny homes and a whole host of scattered sites and a whole host of other things that will be well operated and up and running by October, November. But that is a gap there that we really have to discuss and make sure that we're attending to, because those human beings that are in there now may or may not eventually be the permanent residents of the housing project, but there's that 2-year gap. Any thoughts on that?
Mayor, could I just say one thing? I'm sorry, Christine. We are already looking in District 4 for a successor site.
Okay.
For the shelter function, so that we're ready prior to the closure of Capitol Park.
Okay.
For the sheltering purpose.
Then you're
And I
doing
just-
that, good.
yeah,
Okay, so, and that reminds me, a compliment to Councilmember Hanson as well, as long as we're doling him out here. Because he stepped up and, worked with his community to locate this shelter, triage shelter, right in the smack dab middle of the business area of his district here. And this is exactly what we got to keep replicating. So I'm glad to hear that there's that plan in place. Christine.
Yes, I would also, Christine Weichert, SHRA. I'd also like to add that we do have both VOA and Sacramento Self-Help Housing there to help with relocation and rehousing of the guests, the shelter guests, and we try to provide up to 6 months of rent to those shelter guests. Our big plan is, once we know that Mercy has received their tax credits, hopefully in June of this year, we're going to work diligently to make sure about 115 guests that are there are rehoused before the end of October, permanently, hopefully.
Good. Okay, do we need a motion here? We do have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, opposed, abstain. That's excellent. Okay. Let us move now to item 6. This is a workshop, no vote on this. This was part of the discussion we had with Ms. Dozier around bringing this item early in the calendar year so that we could have a full discussion before we get to decision time and voting time, correct? Okay, very good.
Well, good evening, Tyrone Roderick Williams, Deputy Executive Director of the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency, directing the development activities. And I'm here to accomplish 2 things today. One is to kick off a new way of preparing and accepting ideas that lead to funded projects. And I'll go through that process and where we are at this point. And then to actually hear from you all about projects that may already be on your screen, or to give you an opportunity to begin to seriously think about projects that could be added to this. We are working cooperatively with the staff at the city, and we have met through a series of meetings with some of you to already begin this process. But let's just talk about where we are. First of all, the Community Development Block Grant objectives. 1, to do an analysis of impediments for the consolidated plan, and we've been engaged with that with 16 different cities and jurisdictions. In fact, we were the first agency in the country tasked with such a broad range of working to create that plan. But the other is to create ladders of opportunity for low and moderate residents through 1, affordable housing that includes multifamily rehabilitation and emergency home repair programs. 2, facilitate facilities and infrastructure funding that could include community centers, parks, libraries, pedestrian and bicycle improvements. And 3rd, public services that include senior services and homeless services. All of the projects need to be able to accomplish a national objective. There are 3 objectives. 1, that it serves low and moderate income areas and benefits those residents who are primarily at 51% low and moderate income. Number 2, low and moderate income limited clientele, to focus on specific areas where there are predominantly households of 80% of the area median income or below. And 3rd, low and moderate income housing, to look at developing housing for individuals and households at or below 80% of the area median income. There's some major eligible activities that are included in these funding investments. Public facilities and infrastructure improvements, public facilities, acquisition, clearance and remediation activities, home ownership assistance, planning and administration, and environmental studies. There are also some ineligible activities that include general government buildings and expenses associated with those buildings, operating and maintenance expenses of non-public services, purchase of construction equipment and furnishings, income payments, new housing construction, political and religious activities, supplanting of funds, and regional parks and facilities. Under regional parks and facilities, there is one caveat, and that is that under certain circumstances, there can be the investment for ADA requirements for accessibility. And so we, for the last 7 years, have been engaged in the process of looking at infrastructure and public utilities investments. Generally, the time frame is 5 years. We had a unique experience because we were doing the analysis of impediments. HUD allowed us 2 extra years to be able to plan for this period. But generally, it's a 5-year period, and moving forward, it will be 5 years. But what you see here on the first column is the districts. The second column is the low and mod income percentage of residents that make up the residents in that district. The third area is the percentage of funding and investment that was made in that district compared to the number of residents of low and moderate income in that district. And then the final column shows the number of projects that were funded in that district. As we move forward, particularly with this new process and this new opportunity to get input and coordination, in 2019, there were projects that were approved for funding. But our funding area goes for 2020 to 2024. So those items or number of projects that you see in the fourth column are those projects that were approved in 2019 for 2020. So those projects are already approved. What we are anticipating through this project and conversation, that other projects will be added to this list that would be funded between 2020 and 2024. All of the funding is really based on an estimate. It is an estimate that comes from the federal budget. President Trump yesterday just proposed his new budget, but the good news is it's always a collaboration, and once Congress chimes in, the budget always goes through some major configurations. But we have to estimate, and so these estimates are reasonable and conservative estimates based on what we've gotten in the last years. So the total amount for community development block grant dollars is about $4.7 million. Under that 4.7, we have different activities outlined within that category. And so as you can see, there's infrastructure and public facilities improvements and housing development, preservation and home ownership, public services that include homeless activities and Meals on Wheels, grants, planning and administration, HUD loan repayments, and capital reserve. Under public services, there is a 15% cap, and under planning and administration, there's a 20% cap. But in between that, you all have the opportunity to determine what are the priorities as we move forward. And we are open to hearing and receiving your guidance and suggestions as we consider what we funded in the past and the percentages and what we could look at as we move forward. Let's see here. And so talking about moving forward, this is the process as you have approved and as we are endeavoring to stick to be able to meet our requirement of submitting the final proposal for funding to HUD in late fall. But here we are at the Action Plan Workshop, and our goal is to begin to get ideas, meet with city staff and confer, be able to provide information and responses back to your questions, and then be back at a planning meeting in March, and to be able to continue to include the dialogue until we arrive at final projects. There is always an oversubscription to a project. So we start out here and we narrow in and we're to move forward. But this is the process, and we're happy to be here to begin the moving forward from projects that you would be proposing. So I'm going to pause, and at this point, we're going to be happy to hear any comments or ideas that you currently have or that you will have in the future.
We do have Mr. Worthy again. You're welcome to come on up as our one testifier, to come on up and tell us, all that you agree with here. And then we'll turn it over to the council.
On the agenda to bring the people to understand. You have a right to get better money to invest in your neighborhood. You have a right to own rental property. But you got to teach them that. Now, we know that a workshop should have been every 6 months. But that workshop got to spread out to go out there and get people and understand what this workshop is about. I feel that the workshop would help, and I don't mind putting ideas on the table because you'll need me to implement them. Because my thing is, you have to understand you got to have a supplement income. So how do you get that supplement income? If you bring the equity in your property and build a project, when you get to an age what they call only adjust living, a house should be only to raise your babies in, not a building where everybody coming in and going. And that's what you would put your neighborhoods back together and work with the federal government to get that money, and it'll be nickels and dimes paid back on it. But you have something that you can base back to and say, well, we're going to get a different view of raising our babies. Get away from vouchers, grants in a big apartment building. You don't know where those babies at. You don't know who coming to their babies, presence of those babies. You got to get those babies isolated back that one door to their house. And somebody will know who crossed that door seal. But the way it's set up with large complexes, it's pitiful, people. It is pitiful. Babies are involved in adjust crime. You have a chance to get to these workshops and put these things down on the table. Go back to the old-fashioned thing. I don't have no email. I don't deal on no phone. I do it face-to-face. Get those babies and throw some flyers out there. Get to these workshops and voice your opinion.
Thank you for your comments.
All right, thank you. Let's turn it over to the council members. Councilmember Guetta.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to thank SHRA's work on a number of critical issues that, such as pedestrian safety. I know we're working now on the Logan Street and Lemon Hill and Elder Creek intersections that are CDBG funded. Critical areas where we have had some fatalities because of the lack of safe and ADA compliant crosswalks and intersections. So, and I know we have individual one-off projects that are critical for the neighborhood, such as those. But in this spirit of our agencies working together more cooperatively, I think what I'd like to also see is, as we move forward in the planning process, working with our economic development department's efforts on inclusive economic development. On particularly, specifically for me, it's the commercial corridor revitalization efforts. If right now we're trying to work with all our agency partners at SACOG, at the Air District, RT, and our PBITs to find these, I think it's incumbent upon also the Housing Authority to be actively involved. How do we leverage federal dollars that are matching at the same time these efforts? So, I don't know where we are in this cycle now, and you all know best what's eligible versus what's ineligible, and I think you're the creative minds at SHRA would be helpful, but I think targeting the commercial corridor revitalization, part of the inclusive economic development strategies, are going to help us address not only housing, infill, congestion reduction, traffic congestion reduction, VMT reduction, and also both economic development goals we're trying to do in some of the neighborhoods that match and overlay where these funds are eligible. So I'd like to see that come back also with that lens, and maybe our departments can be working collaboratively, like are there ways we can match all those goals there as well. And obviously in my district it's Power Inn Road, Stockton Boulevard, but throughout the entire city and the region there are those efforts that our county partners are trying to take on, and other council members are trying to take on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Guerra. Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to start by saying thank you for the CDBG project that we're just finishing, which is the new street lighting on 17th, 18th, and 19th near Washington Elementary. I know that we didn't accomplish as many lights as we wanted to because construction costs went up, but I do think that these projects are meaningful, and as soon as those lights were installed, I started to hear from residents, many of them who have been afraid to walk at night, especially in the winter, about the value that they feel it's given them, a little bit more freedom, but a little bit more sense of security in that neighborhood there just to the east of 16th. Tyrone, I had a couple questions. One is, this talks about the county executive and the county. Was this meant to be updated for us to say city?
Yes, so that is an error, but we are on the same time frame.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I wasn't missing something.
And the good news is we're trying to collaborate.
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. I wasn't sure if there was some action that the county needed to take after we acted, and I was trying to understand that. The CDBG map has changed somewhat over the last few years, as I understand it. So it'd be helpful to just, when you come back for the next workshop, to bring us the city map and maybe show those changes, because some areas have fallen out of what used to be in the CDBG map, and it would be really helpful to see that. And people probably looked at your percentages and wonder, why doesn't District 1 have CDBG dollars? And it's partially because CDBG has prioritized certain low-income communities, and Natomas, for good, doesn't yet fall into that. And if they did, we would want to make sure they got their share. So I just think a map would be helpful in the public process. If you go back to the funding chart for a second, yeah, either this one is probably fine. I'm very cognizant that we took a very difficult vote on the Section 108 loan, which takes CDBG dollars that come to the city to help with the very worthy Marisol project. Is that shown on this allocation, the Section 108 loan?
The Section 108 loan is really shown under, it has its own infrastructure, debt service allocation, and there are two debt service loans that we are currently servicing. One is on the Del Paso Nuevo that we're paying down, and the other is Marisol Village.
I just, because I'm aware that those are fairly big obligations that we have, if we could show those in the percent allocated, because it sounds like from what you said, they might be on another table.
We will show that in percentage.
I think that would be helpful just at full transparency, because we're taking a lot of really good dollars off the top to fund those projects, and I think that would be helpful. The last thing, and it's not lost on me, we're trying to walk, chew gum, juggle, and play an instrument at the same time. If that wasn't too much of a mix of metaphors. I don't recommend the harmonica while you chew gum, though. It doesn't always work out. A horn, no. Maybe a guitar. Segue.
Keep going.
Is
This is fascinating.
You're welcome, Jay. When we met to talk about CDBG priorities, I just think it's helpful for people to hear what I asked you about, since Mr. Guerra did as well. We talked about some lighting, street lighting around Washington Elementary, which is a very important elementary school in Midtown, and that was one piece, and just finishing some of the work that we had done before. The other one is, I'm going to change a little bit, but we talked about replacing some of our really bad bathroom. We have one in Southside Park that's subsiding, which means sinking, and isn't ADA compliant and is problematic. It looks like we'll have some resources through our park impact fee to do that one in Southside Park next to the accessible playground, because we want to make sure it's fully ADA compliant. But since we're working with Street Soccer USA on the new court at O'Neill Field, it's close to our SHRA public housing sites. O'Neill Field, I was told those restrooms, which service a lot of children there, are actually super bad. And our park staff agreed that they probably were a bigger priority there on X Street rather than the second south side restroom in the near term, because so many kids and families use that, and we're going to be doing even more programming with the kids from Marina Vista Alder Grove there. So I haven't had a chance to circle back with you, but I think that would be doing multiple things at the same time to benefit not only our SHRA residents, our kids in need, and also the families who might use that park. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
So, you know, I of course had a briefing about CDBG funds as well, and I appreciated staff explaining the process, you know, and that these funds are not voluminous, and there's a ton of projects that we all want to get done. This is spread pretty thin, and that there's a priority for shovel-ready projects. I understand that completely. I also appreciate that you pointed out that some of this money could be used to plan to get projects into that shovel-ready state. And I actually think that that's a really appropriate use of funds, you know, when there are many funding sources to get things built. And there are so many projects that need to get planned. So a lot of that possibility in my district has to do with planning projects, and we discussed those, so I appreciate it. Also, of course, Mirasol Village is in District 3, and it's a very difficult project to affect. You know, I fully comprehend the struggles that you've gone through economically to get this thing vertical, the difficulties in the ground, above the ground, just difficulties. So that also seems like a reasonable and appropriate use of CDBG funds, because this is going to be a very significant project for the city. That's about all I've got to say. Thank you.
I would like to just make a comment. First of all, thank you very much. It's an excellent presentation. I appreciate the early process here so that we can engage in all this. So again, Michelle and I have talked a little bit about sort of a big picture, not concern, but maybe opportunity. I understand that all of these different revenue sources have particular restrictions, and yet they all touch on a lot of the things we're contemplating or doing under our city budget, under our youth budget, under our housing trust fund idea, under our Measure U program. And I look at this number, which overall number, which is $8.984 million. That's a lot of money. And you know, last week, Councilmember Hansen during the mid-year budget talked a lot about the Vision Zero challenge and wanting to address intersections. We know we have an ongoing debate including a measure on the ballot in March around youth funding. And I think, as we've also talked about in a very positive way, it's kind of a new day, and I think a very positive day with the city and SHRA, at least for my tenure here. You know, you are us and we are you. I mean, we are one family here, right? I would love to have this discussion not just with the city council, but with the lead city staff, the housing team, the economic development team, the Measure U advisory committee, the different folks that are touching on different pieces of this, because there could be leverage opportunities, if you will, that we haven't yet thought about. Because I know that you can't just take 8.9, you know, so my thing would be take 8.9 million, securitize it, and boom, now we've done our housing program. And I know, because I've been informed in my pre-briefing, that isn't quite the way it works as possible, and I understand. But yet, it's a significant pot of money, just as we have other significant pots of money, and we don't have enough money discreetly to do everything that we necessarily want to do. So I really want this early notice here in this workshop to be broadened out with with other parts of the city family here, so we can figure out how we stitch and weave these various pots of money all towards the same end, so that we're not just coming back with a separate expenditure plan here that's isolated and separate from the youth budget we're going to be voting on, the housing program that we're going to be voting on through the city. Is that okay? Can we do that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. So, is this a receive and file? Okay. Good, let's move to the last item. Thank you. Good job.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Beasy, Program Manager with SHRA. The council approved a revision to SHRA's multifamily lending and mortgage revenue bond policies on December 3rd, 2019. During the discussion of that item, the council raised concerns about fees associated with the construction of new multifamily housing. In response to this concern, SHRA staff committed to bringing the issue of monitoring fees back before the council. In preparation for that discussion, staff procured an independent analysis from Kaiser Marston Associates that compared SHRA's monitoring fees and practices with other mortgage revenue bond issuers throughout the state. The memorandum that Kaiser Marston Associates prepared is attached to your staff report, and Debbie Kern, Managing Principal, has a brief presentation of the research findings.
Good afternoon. It's not evening yet. Mayor Steinberg, members of the council, and Director Dozier. I'm Debbie Kern with Kaiser Marston Associates, and we are a land use economics advisory firm, and our client base are cities and counties throughout the state primarily, and we do a lot of affordable housing work as part of our practice. And so, as Susan mentioned, we were retained by SHRA to go through and do a review of the fees, monitoring fees charged by conduit bond issuers throughout the state and their monitoring practices. And so before I started, just some of this language I was just thinking is a little bit, technical. A conduit issuer is an issuer that is not a borrower. So you're issuing bonds on behalf of a borrower who will then be responsible for repaying the bonds. The issuers themselves have no liability for repaying the bonds. And what we're focused on today is just the monitoring practices, the monitoring fees that are annual fees that are charged to review the compliance of the bonds with the regulatory agreements that have been levied on each of the projects. And so, let's see with the first slide. And what we did is we surveyed the top 10 local conduit issuers throughout the state and the top 4 statewide or non-local issuers. And they're in terms of the volume of bonds that they've issued. And these were based upon issuances in 2018. So as you can see, the top 3 in 2018 were the City of Los Angeles, City of San Jose, and then the City and County of San Francisco. And then the top non-local issuer was the CMFA with 1.1 billion of bonds issued in 2018. Next slide. And first, with respect to a review of the fees, the monitoring fees that are charged, the base fee amount is uniform across all of the agencies of the top agencies, and it's at equal to 1/8 of 1% of the bond amount. And the basis for the fee can change over time. It's initially based upon the bond principal at the time of issuance. It can change once the loan goes to a permanent, and some charge it based upon the outstanding balance of the principal. So that varies from agency to agency, but the base fee amount of 1/8 of 1% is the same. Minimum annual fees, some agencies have minimums ranging from $2,500 to $10,000 a year. SRHA does not have a minimum fee that's charged. Maximum annual fee, SHRA and Contra Costa County are the only programs that cap the maximum annual fee that's charged at $25,000 per year. In addition to this base annual monitoring fee, Many agencies also charge additional fees that are associated with monitoring the compliance with requirements of other regulatory agreements, like regulatory agreements that are associated with subsidies that, say, SHRA would provide to a project, or inclusionary housing requirements, or density bonus programs. So there's other fees that can be charged to monitor those practices. Next slide. Now I'll go into just a summary of what are those monitoring practices, activities that agencies engage in. One is how do they implement these monitoring practices? Do they do it with in-house staffing, or do they outsource? And SHRA uses in-house staff, which is standard. The City of Los Angeles is the only top local issuer that outsources. All the other ones do in-house. Another key element is how many times, the frequency of doing on-site visits to all the properties on which there are bonds issued. And SHRA is the only agency that visits each property annually, and they visit 20% of the units in each property annually. Most agencies visit every 2 to 3 years, and one agency, San Diego, for example, does not have annual or any visits as a standard practice. Another service is tenant file audits, and SRH does that annually, but most agencies do that annually. A differentiating feature is the review of borrower reporting. There's a number of forms that have to be reviewed, and everybody reviews these annual compliance forms annually. But SHRA also reviews tenant service reports on a quarterly basis, and occupancy reports on a monthly basis, which is much more frequently than other agencies do. Next slide. Another area of activity is reviewing property maintenance and on-site security standards. And most agencies do not do the review of those practices as part of the bond program. And this it's an interesting situation, because where you have local agencies that provide subsidy sources, so they have regulatory agreements that they have put onto the properties, and they may review these practices as part of their review of compliance for their own regulatory agreements related to their subsidies, but they don't do it as part of the bond practices. So there is an overlap, and you have the same staff implementing the same type of review. So there is some difficulty in discerning whether they're doing it as part of the bond compliance or they're doing it to enforce the regulations associated with their subsidies. Another issue or practice that SHRA does a more robust program is reviewing audited financial statements for the projects. And again, that's because SHRA has an interest. If you have subsidy money in a project, you want to make sure that they're complying with all the regulations. Others do not do that review as part of their bond program. Landlord-tenant disputes. Many agencies do not get involved with landlord-tenant disputes, but some do, and SHRA does weigh in when necessary. Next slide. So with respect to non-local issuers and the monitoring fees that they charge, I'd like to step back a little bit. Non-local issuers do not have any subsidy monies into any of the projects in which they're issuing bonds. So their interests are different, and typically their practices are more streamlined, and they're focused on just meeting the requirements of CDLAC. So it's just a different mission, and so they charge less and they do less. So 3 of the 4 agencies that we reviewed, their monitoring fee is equal to 1/20th of 1% of the outstanding principal of the bond amount. Cal HFA doesn't have it. They just charge a base fee, flat fee of $7,500 per project. Minimum fee amounts range from $1,000 to $5,000 per year for these entities. Let's see. In terms of their staffing, it varies. One of the issuers used outsource of the staffing. The other 3 used internal staffing. On-site visits, this is a major departure. None of the agencies visited annually, 2 visited every 3 years. Their standard services that they provide is they do review tenant eligibility practices, resident services, and changes to ownership and management. None of them review audited financial statements as a standard practice because they don't have any money into these projects. Maintenance and security standards, if they do a site visit, they do review those practices. Most of them do not typically engage in tenant-landlord disputes. So in summary, as I mentioned, there's an overlap between monitoring, bond monitoring programs and monitoring the subsidies for projects. So it makes it difficult to isolate the elements just solely of the bond monitoring program. But putting that aside, SHRA definitely has one of the most comprehensive bond monitoring programs of the top issuers in the state, of the local issuers. And it exceeds many programs with respect to the depth and the frequency of monitoring services. So in most, one of the key issues is the on-site visits that SHRA conducts annually, and no other agencies do that. They also do the review of on-site security, maintenance, and audited financial statement review, which is unique to the agencies that we reviewed. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for a thorough report. We do have one item of public testimony here again. Mr. Worthy, third time. You get four times, so since there's no more items.
Well, I don't know how well you all receive what I say, but this is what I talk on the phone to and what I do, and I don't use a computer reading it automatically. See it. Okay, bond. Now, I don't make a debt to pay a debt. That's double jeopardy. That's what you're doing. Making a debt to pay a debt. Now, there's such thing as deferring labor. There's things as working with Home Depot, 2 old white guys that I could make the connection through Don Trump. They'll let you have a lot of material and pay them later. That's what defer. A lot of young men is paying back child support or restitution. You don't have to pay tax on the money they defer because the construction don't go year round. When it's raining, you can't do no construction. But you got to do business. That's the reason Donald Trump gonna win again. He done business. You're going to start running this thing on a business base. You're going to start running deals instead of saying we got $8 million sitting. I asked the question, is that paper or is it in the bank? Same thing with sales tax. When they go to the state, that ain't paper, that's money. Who makes the money while it's sitting there? Ask Bank of America, to the majority of the people that it pays their property tax is taken out on a escrow account. How much money do Bank of America make out that escrow account? These are the things you're going to have to talk to people about. They make big money. You just think of 1 million people here through Bank of America escrow account. That money sit there and they pay it for you. These are the things you're going to have to talk to people about. People can't digest this overnight. Not just on the black people, across the board. They can't. This stuff got to come to a business basis. Like Tyrone said, go to workshops and sit down and answer the question. Get people in there to start asking questions. I could play the devil's advocate. Why don't you ask this question? Average person don't even know what that.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete.
They don't even know how much they pay on the
comments. Your time is complete.
Thank you, Mr. Worthy. Let's hear from Councilmember Hanson.
Thanks, Mayor. I know this was a follow-up from the work we did last year on our multifamily lending guidelines, and I appreciate it. And I think, Debbie, you should come back every meeting. It was very stimulating and helpful. I know that you've done a lot of work with our economic development staff on other projects, and your work speaks for itself, despite my little bit of mid-afternoon sarcasm fueled by coffee. But it is very interesting, and I think that the biggest thing is we've made a lot of progress. We still need to see how kind of going forward over the course of this next year, those many projects that were laid out, Christine, whether this has an impact. And I think what the staff have said is they're going to use their discretion that if this is the difference between a project succeeding and failing, that this won't be the barrier. Is that right, Ms. Lachelle, or Ms. Dozier? Okay. Do you want to turn on your mic so that we have that on the record?
That is correct.
Okay. And with that, I'm happy to continue this conversation. I think that there was never a doubt about the quality of the work being done, but to the extent that we're just trying to deliver on projects, if it was a barrier was the question. And I still think we have latitude to make sure it's not a barrier. And as long as we're exercising that discretion effectively, I'm okay. But you know, maybe at the end of this year or at some point, if we see that it's a challenge, we want to revisit it. The other thing that I took away from one of the meetings we had in my office, Lachelle, was that there's a lot of projects that SHRA is charged with monitoring from the redevelopment era that have no monitoring agreements on them. And that's a significant burden for the agency. So I don't know if there's a way to help the agency with those projects and those unfunded liabilities or those unfunded monitoring burdens, but that would be kind of a way maybe to reassess the whole portfolio that needs to be monitored and see if there's not a way to level out fees and obligations across it so that the last in projects don't necessarily have to cover the first in projects, which I think is some of the balancing act you're trying to do with your budget and trying to make ends meet, which, you know, we really do need you to make ends meet, and I appreciate that challenge. So thanks for all the hard work.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, the proof is in the pudding here. You've already done work on the fees, and as Councilmember Hanson said, the quality of your monitoring and the work you do is greater than sometimes we would get with other issuers. But the fact of the matter is, we want to be a city that's welcoming to affordable developers. And so that's really the test, right? If you're getting it just right, then affordable developers are going to say, this is a community that I want to build in. And that's where we need to get. So as Councilmember Hanson said, we'll just keep looking, and if this is working, then great, then you've hit the sweet spot. And if it needs to be altered a little bit more, then we might have to revisit in the future. But I appreciate the report. Thank you, Christine.
Okay, Councilmember Ashby.
Yes, thank you. First of all, just thank you for bringing this back and taking a look at it. And I think I've mentioned this before. Obviously, in the last item, I don't have CDBG, but on this item, I have 11 units, full, big, couple hundred dwellings in each, and I am extremely reliant on SHRA to help me with the oversight. And it has happened on occasion, one of them sells or something and they get a new owner, and that owner comes in and they don't hold themselves to the standards that we're used to for residents there, and I've more than once had to lean on SHRA. So for me, that oversight and accountability piece is like the thread that I cling to make sure that the people, my constituents who live in those complexes, are getting what we believe they should be receiving when they live in one of our subsidized units. So I just want to say that I appreciate that, and I appreciate that you included in depth what that means for us as a city to have our agency providing that level of service, and how that fee sort of feeds that process. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there action required on this item?
Receive and
Just
file.
direction, receive and file, but good direction and excellent discussion. Thank you so much. Okay, that completes the Housing Authority agenda for today. I know we have a special meeting next week to discuss the homeless issues, and we will look forward to that. Thank you very, very much. It was a good, smooth start here for everyone.
Yeah.
We do have one, Mr. Worthy, for his fourth time. That is what's allowed under the rules for council, or excuse me, for public testimony for items not on the agenda. So,
Mr. Worthy?
well, we don't, but
Jay.
Mainly people here.
yes. Mr. Worthy, go ahead. Your time is running.
As many people we have in Sacramento, this is what's here, to hear this. Critical scheduling is your problem. you have to schedule these type of meetings when people have access to come in, the people that need to know what's going on. You're not doing that. Dale, I don't know whether that's your fault or what. But main thing is I want to share some problems that people have called me on with Dale Robertson. I knew Dale Robertson as a young man. And some people gonna try to get me to Dale. I can help Dale because somebody is lying somewhere or somebody burned him somewhere. And that's bad. I asked him to run for city council before Dan Thompson was over there. He's a young man in the neighborhood, and we'd like to see these type of things brought to the point because a resolution to all nonprofit organizations must give you a year-end statement that you give city, Dale, listen, that you give taxpayers money to all nonprofits must give you some type of finance statement before you give them money. That resolution would clean up a lot of things. There's a lot of other people could be done. Because when I first come in here, somebody walked out on a $400,000 pavilion. Somebody picked it up and never had an investigation. And a critical part of this, I would like to see a federal investigation because we got the sanctuary cases coming up, and I hope that go to a federal law and we get a grand jury to do that investigation because there's a lot of problems here in the state of California that going to have to be cleared up. And you might as well just start with Sacramento because we got 4 more years with my President Trump.
I have no more speakers.
Okay, thank you. This meeting of the Housing Authority is adjourned. The City Council will reconvene at 5 o'clock for a relatively brief agenda. Thank you very much.